Hey there guys, I'm back to another game review. Today we'll be taking a look at Sonic Forces on the PlayStation 4. Sonic Forces was initially announced back in July of 2016 as Project Sonic 2017. Details for this new Sonic team title was scarce. A new threat is on the rise and classic Sonic makes a return. They mentioned that this wasn't a sequel to Generations, so we still didn't know much going in. When they revealed the title to be Sonic Forces, everyone on the internet pretty much memed it up. Other details slowly rolled out, like the custom character and the new baddie, Infinite. The custom character was just like a why moment for me. I was never one of those Sonic fans who created their own OC character, so this feature was just questionable for me. The new villain Infinite looked pretty menacing given the VO work and the character design. As time came closer and closer to the release, I didn't hear much about this game. A few good things here and there, but no one was really blown away or said anything extraordinary about the game. It didn't help that Sonic Mania came out months before this game, so people were already deeming this game as bad. On my podcast, I was one of the few people who had faith in Sonic Team to make a good Sonic game, so now that I played through it, is it any good? Well, let's start with that plot summary. Sonic and friends have to fight Eggman once again, but this time, Eggman has already won. With his new creation Infinite, Sonic and friends have to work together to take down Eggman's newest creation and restore peace in the Sonic world. Interesting premise to say the least. We've never had a Sonic game where Eggman's won already, and the new villain Infinite was shaping up to be the most menacing Sonic character yet. But this plot falls flat on its face. First up, the execution. With stakes being so high, you'd think the characters would take Eggman more seriously, but they don't. The tones within this game are all over the place. One second they're talking about war and torture, and the next second they're making jokes about chili dogs and selfies. The writers for this game didn't know if they wanted to have a story like the adventure titles or a story like Sonic Colors. The length for this game doesn't help either. A story where Eggman has taken over most of the world and it's only 3 hours long, it feels like a loss of potential here. Also, because this game is only 3 hours long, the way time advances and moves in this game is awkward. At one point of the game, we have 3 days before Eggman's big Doomsday event, and then all of a sudden, Doomsday is here. Another issue I had with this plot was classic Sonic. It's not his character because he doesn't have one to begin with, but I had a problem with how he was introduced. He was sort of forced into this game and felt like a last second thought. Like halfway through writing the script, they were like, oh wait guys, we need to have classic Sonic here. Alright, so we'll just have him entered here, and then alright, he'll just exit at the end of the game, whatever. Classic Sonic could have been excluded from this game completely from a story perspective. Another character that was really disappointing was Infinite. Infinite was super underwhelming and not all that threatening past the 5-minute mark. It sucks because they were hyping this character up to be a counter to Sonic, but ends up being another one of Eggman's failed creations. How the custom character was thrown into the story was done well enough. It was given a very generic backstory but made sense within the overall plot. But yeah, the story of Sonic Forces is not good. It's too short to have a huge plot like this where Eggman has taken over most of the world. Characters don't see how big of a threat Eggman is now. Classic Sonic's edition seems forced, and Infinite is sorely disappointing. Yes, the story of Generations was pretty bad and relied heavily on nostalgia, but this game is setting up a more complex story for the Sonic universe. A plot like this in a 3D Sonic adventure hasn't been done since Unleashed or even Sonic 06. In the end, the story is really disappointing with its short length and no real impact. Alright, so the plot isn't all that great, but how is the gameplay? Now you have 3 different gameplay styles. Modern Sonic with the emphasis on going fast and blazing through the stage, Classic Sonic where it's supposed to emulate the Genesis titles, and your custom character where you take out enemies and do some platforming. Let's start with Modern Sonic. All Sonic Team had to do was take the gameplay from Generations and create new and fun levels to play through. Instead, Sonic Team looked at Generations' gameplay and ruined it somehow. First flaw within the Modern Sonic gameplay is the boosting. Modern Sonic gameplay is notorious for the boosting gameplay being the most recognizable feature. Well, the boosting is no longer tied to the rings, but now the Wisp. Why is this? There was absolutely no problem with how it was before. Why make the Wisp suddenly more important? I read somewhere a few years ago that Sonic Team wants to make the Wisp more like the power-ups in Mario, but please don't do this. There were so many complaints with their presence in Lost World. Why bring them back here? Because the boost is no longer tied to the rings, Modern Sonic levels feel slower slower and more platforming oriented. Another ability that's tied to the Wisp now is the light speed dash. You can't even use the Wisp for Sonic to get the light speed dash. It's only available within the custom character levels. How great is that? Also, you can't drift anymore. Why? I don't know. Let's just take another important aspect of modern Sonic gameplay and just take it out of the game. The level design doesn't help either for the entire game. The levels feel boring and uninspired. Not much creativity went into the level design. In addition to the poor level design, most of the levels are really short, like they don't even hit that 5-minute mark. Also, since this is a game where Sonic's friends are more heavily involved, you'll hear their voices throughout each level. Yes, even when you die, you'll hear the same dialogue repeated again, which can get annoying really fast. Moving on to Classic Sonic, he didn't feel any different from his generation's counterpart. Other than the poor level design, there's not much else to go and complain here for Classic Sonic. The custom character levels are kind of weird. Sonic Team decided to add this custom character in because they've seen the fandom make too many OC characters, so they wanted to go and see what would happen if they put it into a game. The levels for the custom character are really boring. The weapon you start off with is like a flamethrower, and as long as you hold that R2 button, you won't die to enemies. This weapon makes sections of the level where you have to defeat enemies child's play. Swapping to different weapons besides the flamethrower isn't all that worth it either, unless you're aiming for a S rank for a certain level. The platforming for the custom character is very hit or miss. In the 3D sections, platforming for the custom character is fine, but in the 2D sections, it's really off. The jump is now in a fixed arc, and the double jump is completely removed. Also, wall jumping is sometimes unresponsive. Jumping on the wall will only sometimes work. I seriously died so many times due to the game saying, nah, you're not wall jumping right now. The custom character levels are really boring to play through. I have no real excitement when I have to play through these levels. Also, the water slide levels are broken. I fell twice at the same part because the game said so. Levels where modern Sonic and the custom character feel slightly better. Mixing the two gameplay styles works in some regards, but I would have much rather had these levels just be solo modern Sonic. The boss fights in this game are okay. Despite the returning cast of villains, you fight Infinite multiple times throughout the game, and he's taken out very easily. The first boss fight against Zavok was very difficult because the homing attack wasn't responding. Like, it took me 7 minutes to finally realize that the homing attack was just messing up, and it wasn't just me that didn't know what to do. There is one villain in this game that I wish got a boss fight, but sadly didn't. The only redeeming factor of the gameplay is going for S ranks. If you're aiming to get S ranks for all of the levels, it's a nice challenge. It's actually hard to get an S rank on the first run of a level, unlike previous 3D Sonic games. I almost forgot to mention, but there is this free DLC piece called Episode Shadow. I recommend playing it after the main game to fully understand what's happening. It contains 3 stages where you play as Shadow and slightly expands the story of Shadow and Infinite. The Infinite part of the story was okay, but feels unneeded. The Shadow part of the story makes sense since it explains certain aspects of the main story. The first 2 stages are really easy and actually kind of fun to play through, but the third stage is heavy on platforming, so you have to take your time and be patient, which really doesn't go well within a Sonic game. Overall, Episode Shadow was a fun DLC piece that probably should have been on the disc to begin with, but hey, who's complaining? It's free additional content that's actually not bad. Back to the main game, the gameplay of Sonic Forces could have been done so much better. The custom character levels are boring to play through, classic Sonic levels lack any good level design, and the modern Sonic levels are bad due to the removal of key abilities. If you're a completionist, in some regards, you might have fun going back into levels to go and try to get that S rank, but that's only if you can tolerate the poor level design and Sonic's friends telling you the same dialogue over and over again. The gameplay of Sonic Forces was handled very poorly. Sonic Team did not learn from their past mistakes in the form of Lost World, and they're reapplying them here. One thing I can say for Sonic Forces is that the presentation is pretty good. Graphically, it looks nice for a PS4 title. The music is a little iffy for me, but there are a few tracks that I actually did like. The frame rate issues are at a bare minimum for the PS4 version. The presentation for Sonic Forces was done well enough. So what's my final verdict on Sonic Forces? This is one of the worst Sonic games I've played in quite some time. The story had so much potential but fell short. The gameplay is screwed up in so many levels, and the presentation is not bad. I would have been fine with the story being this bad as long as the gameplay made up for it, but it didn't. The gameplay of Sonic Forces doesn't even come close to the likes of Generations and Colors. Like, if I were to rank Forces among Unleashed, Colors, and Generations, this would definitely be at the bottom. So if you're on the fence on whether or not to pick up Sonic Sonic Forces, don't. It's only 3 hours long and it's $40. You can pick up Generations, Colors, and Unleashed together for less than that. So yeah, that is my review of Sonic Forces. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you've played Sonic Forces, what did you think about the game, or what do you think about Sonic in general? Be sure to leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. I read all my comments. If you haven't already, you can subscribe. I put new videos up every single Saturday. Want to follow me on social media, Facebook and Twitter, you can do that as well. And yeah, I think that is about it. Thank you guys for watching this video again. I will see you guys next time with more videos. Game on, gamers.